time to forge the narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host for the Battle Lost Souls podcast. I'm joined today by Chris Morgan.
Hey, what's up, Paul?
Chris, this is going to be a jam-packed show. We're going to do a segment with you and I on Speed Freaks. Then we're going to cut to a segment that we did with Sarah from Battlehaven. Then we're coming back to us.
Yeah, that was a fun chat.
Yeah, talk about some hobby stuff. And then we're going to put a segment in from the Hagglethorn Hollow Kickstarter team. We're really excited to talk to those guys. I think it's going to be a real, well, it's already a successful Kickstarter, but we're going to talk to them about things they have coming up. We're looking forward to hearing their insight as to why they even did this in the first place. It's going to be great.
Yep.
So Speed Freaks goes up for pre-order. When you're hearing this, this is your first opportunity to get your hands on some of the new Orc vehicles. And there is a whole host of them coming out with the Orc release. But Speed Freaks, it's its own game. It is a boxed game that comes with 2 of the new vehicles and 6 Orc Warbikers and some obstacles, the Orc obstacles, like the barricades and some scrap and stuff that you can litter around the battlefield, and you get rules to play a game with it.
I think my favorite thing about them really is just how they don't follow that imperial matrix for naming your vehicles. Like the Doom Sword, Doom Death.
Something with a raven and something with some thunder.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yep.
Birds
or
and thunders.
Yeah.
One of the neat things about the Speed Freaks game is that in the box it also comes with rules cards for all the upcoming Orc vehicles. So let's just say you were somebody who was wanting to get a real early grab on some of the vehicles in this kit, and you're going to be expanding your Orc collection and getting the other new vehicles when they come out. The game has rules in there for you to use those also.
That seems to make sense.
I like it. And you get in the last page of the Speed Freaks rule set, it has a section called The Showroom. So you can see all the stuff in real high def pics. I know that a lot of the stuff has been posted on the community team, but the pictures are here for you to view also. Pretty neat.
Well, I mean, the kits just look so characterful, and it probably just has to do with the orcs that are on it. I mean, there's something about just having all of these enthusiastic green weirdos hanging out of the windows and stuff that just makes the vehicle so much more interesting than a rhino.
If you're a longtime listener of the show, you'll know that I don't like models that have like other models on them, standing on them or whatever.
Well, you were a big fan of that Scout speeder.
Yeah, but I don't like the Scouts sitting on it. Like mine don't have the Scouts sitting on them, and they have it as the crew, but not the squad in the back. I don't have those. But I'm gonna give these Orc vehicles a pass because of what you just said. They had a lot of flavor. And I can't wait to do them up in some kind of theme. I think doing some head swaps or maybe even just a little bit of hobby work on making them all Mad Max bikers or pirates or something would be a neat project to do.
Well, I see a crap ton of Mad Max Fury Road crossover attempts with this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the game, it comes with some dice. It comes with some markers. It comes with, again, all of the gear that you would expect to play a board game in today's world. It's got a few cards. It's got some specialty dice. It's got some things that give you movement markers. You're only able to, they call them the gubbins, that give you your angles of movement. So as you're moving across the board, and the board is actually modular. So the board comes in 4 sections, and the mission that you're doing, it's not called a mission.
The Grand Smash.
It's the rucks. Each ruck is its own mission, and it tells you how to set the board up. Each board configuration has a different set of deployment zones. You're supposed to move around the board, and movement is part of the game, part of the strategy in the game. Because if any part of your model edges off the side of the board, you're considered destroyed.
That reminds me of well, I guess it's the flyer rules for 6th edition, or not 8th edition.
Well, it's also, this kind of reminds me of almost like an Armada type game on a much smaller scale. Obviously, because you're not dealing with spaceships, super spaceships. You're dealing with Orc dragsters and whatever and bikes, but you've got that whole. You have certain things that dictate your movement. Your inertia, your momentum dictates your movement. And also the dice that you roll, there's a bit of a strategy in how you assign what each of your pieces can do. And then there's the roll of the dice. And that's what's going to give you the randomization and what happens because you're an orc.
Well, it wouldn't be orky if it wasn't completely random.
Well, right. You do have, it's not so completely random. Or you've got to consider what are your constants, such as what your firing arc is going to be, what you can control, and then what you can't control. And that's the dice. And I think as far as what this game does is that it blends that together. You've got several phases of the game. The cunning phase. This is where the players allocate their allowance of dice and decide which player will act first. It is an alternating activation game.
Okay. So yeah, very much channeling that Star Wars Armada.
The speeding phase. This is not just my accent. That's the way it's in the book.
I think we can give you a pass on this one, Paul.
Speeding phase, players allocate their speed and dice to each of their models and then move them. And that's where the gubbins and the die rolls and stuff come in. The shooting phase, there's a firing arc and there's a tool that comes in it's a cutout. It's a token type thing, that gives you your firing arc, and then the fighting phase. And if you're within a certain amount of inches from enemy models, and you can fight. I think that's what we'll see is, what I like to see is things that can compete in multiple phases. So things like if you happen to have one of those war trikes coming out with a war boss or whatever or not with a power claw, probably pretty good in this game too.
Well, I'm just really disappointed there's not a brutal phase, because there is a cunning phase.
Cunning. Well, I think everything's brutal.
Well, I mean, I guess we kind of take the brutality for granted.
Right. Yeah. Well, especially everybody on here has big arms. So maybe the Gretchen.
The bros instead of the boys.
The pieces, the sprues in the game they're continuing the trend of the colored plastic. So there's yellow plastic for one team, red plastic for the other team, and the scrap actually comes on brown plastic.
That makes this a much more, how would you put it? A much more easy game to put in non-GW stores, perhaps? Board game stores or whatever with colored pieces?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the trend of where they're going. But these models are not the easy fit models. They're definitely the full-on kits and require some hobby work to put together. Now, I mean, nothing major, but they still exist. I mean, these are the multi-part kits, not the easy push-fit kits.
Well, orc models and vehicles are very forgiving if it doesn't look like it's gone together perfectly.
Man, I don't know about this. With the way that because these Dractors, they do look very, very orky, but they are also pretty sleek in design. I mean, there are pipes that have to line up together. I mean, I know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying, but these are quality models with a little bit of finesse that has to go into putting them together.
Well, I am very interested in seeing if we see a bunch of these speed freaks make their way onto tabletops, not just in the board game.
Well, these models they're saying are exclusive to the speed, not the war bikes, but the new vehicles are saying exclusive to speed freaks. I think they're gonna be exclusive as much as any other model is. It's exclusive for a little while and then it comes out.
Kind of like the Armigers from Forgebane.
Yeah, that's probably what I would suspect. I mean, without knowing anything about the release schedule, but I can't see these only existing in this box set, especially that they're not push fit, they're not easy fit models. These are kits that would stand up on the shelf with any of the other kits.
Hey, well, I mean, no one's going to argue over having good kits.
No, absolutely not. So it comes with the 40k rules in the assembly instruction booklet also. So I know this is, I think it's been put up on the Warhammer community site, but the Shock Jump Dragsta has an ability we haven't seen before.
I mean, the closest thing that I can think of for this rule in particular would have to be, there used to be like a Forge World vehicle that it would teleport when you would if you tried to move it with it a certain distance. Gosh, I fought it once way back. It was at least a year or two ago. I came across one, or like three of them, in a list I was fighting with the Stampa. And I remember at one point it zapped into one direction and then ended up either immobilizing or destroying itself. It was nuts. It was wild.
Well, the rule we're talking about here is the shock tunnel. If you roll a 4+ when advancing with the model, remove it from the battlefield and set it up again anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from any enemy unit. After doing so, roll a d6. On a 4+, the model suffers 1 mortal wound.
I think that's hilarious.
So yeah, so why is this interesting? All right, because this shock junk Dragsta has a custom shock rifle on it, which is Assault 2, 24-inch range, Strength 8, Neg 3 AP, D6 damage.
And even looking beyond just like the D6 damage, I think the ability of the gun goes even beyond that.
If you roll 1 or more unmodified hit rolls of 1 for this weapon, the bearer suffers 1 mortal wound after all this weapon's attacks have been resolved. Each time you make a wound roll of a 6+ to the weapon, the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage. And the Grot Gunner and Targeting Squig add 2 to the hit rolls for attacks made with this model's custom shock rifle. So it's got a BS of 5+ because he's an orc. With this, you're moving it to a 3+.
And it's an assault weapon, so you can, after you advance, so after you
teleport
go through the shock tunnel, you can still shoot it and hit on a 4+.
Yep. I'm liking it. That is a lot of damage.
Yeah, and it's got 2 shots, so chances are you're going to be hitting with one of them. And an AP -3 does not suck. Strength 8 does not suck. Now, depending on how much points the vehicle itself costs, I could see a whole drag mob or whatever you want to call it of these things just popping up somewhere and laying down some thick damage onto something soft.
Or not even soft. I mean, Strength 8, Neg 3 AP, D6 damage, Assault 2, reliable hits.
I'm thinking there's Sicarans are still pretty, I would say pretty common. Knights, I mean, this is a bit hit or miss for knights. But even something like, a T7 model, like a Primarch or something like that, this is a really good weapon to chuck around at those multi-wound models.
The Neg 3 damage is pretty darn strong. And then there's a rocket launcher also on here, which is Strength 8, Neg 2, 3, a flat 3 damage.
Yep, that's pretty consistent with the other rocket launchers too.
And these are assault weapons, so you're not going to really be Now, you're not hitting with that rocket launcher.
Yep. Well, with the Grot Gunner and the bomb or in the Targeting Squig, I mean, that is such an interesting thing to see for orcs, because what is the biggest complaint, right, that orc players have always had? It's like, well, I throw all these dice with my shooting, but nothing really connects.
Well, the Grots have been, I mean, that's the thing here. The Grots have always been a little bit better hitting. And in the Targeting Squig here, or the Grot Gunner and the Targeting Squig are just on the shock rifle.
So it's specific to the gun?
It's specific to the gun, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So you're not hitting with the rocket launcher. I mean, you might.
Maybe you're hitting with a rocket launcher. If you're some orc players I know, you're hitting with all your rocket launchers.
The custom boom blaster is the other vehicle in here, and it has I think the standout thing to me is that it's got the spiked ram. Now, these are the 40k rules. The speed feat rules are completely different. They don't line up with any of the stuff that we're talking about for the 40k stuff. But I wanted to go ahead and get that out there because I know a lot of orc players are chomping at the bit for this October to finally get ramped up.
Revving their engines, as it were.
So the spiked ram, each time this model finishes a charge move, select an enemy unit within 1 inch of it and roll a d6. On a 4+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds.
I mean, anytime you can get mortal wounds out, and that's before these things get to swing, right? So if you have multiples of these you could dish out anywhere between 3 to 9 mortal wounds on a unit you charge before they even have the opportunity to interrupt you.
Yeah, that's actually, I think that's pretty good. That's a good point. With the wide base of this vehicle too, this is on one of the larger oval bases, not the knight base, but the one below it.
So like a Riptide base or something?
I think it's like the Dread Knight type base.
Okay.
You've got that wide profile to be able to line up against lots of enemies. So let's say something had 1 or 2 wounds left. You could charge maybe a couple of things, throw the spiked ram on the thing that's almost dead, and then divert the rest of your attacks, which it has 4 attacks. The Dragsta has 4 attacks also with a weapon skill of 4+. You don't see that a lot on vehicle stuff. So I'm hoping this aggressive profile translates to the rest of the orc vehicles too. So we start seeing some potential for fully mounted up orc armies.
Well, and one of the other things I immediately thought of is on the Warhammer community page, they have, the Defkiller War Trike, which is like the war boss on the trike.
Yeah.
His rule, Speedwa, allows vehicle units within 6 inches of the model at the start of the charge phase can charge even if they advance this turn. So what's the movement on this vehicle?
14.
14. So that does not suck.
The Boom Blaster has 12. The Shock Jump has 14.
Okay. So 12 still, it's not terrible. And if you're advancing, which you probably are, I mean, you could potentially get a little bit more reach with your vehicles. And I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult without having the Orc Codex in front of us, right? To speculate. But if Here We Go, I think it is, that lets Orc units reroll charge distances. If that's still a thing, like you could have some decent threat range with these things.
Yeah, it's important. I think this kind of stuff on a sturdy frame and with some reasonable attacks that it can put out. It's all about aggression and making people make potential errors with their deployment. These things are toughness 6, 8 wounds apiece. I mean, no idea what the points on these things are, but their stats ain't bad.
Does it have the power level on those things that come in the box?
It does, yeah. So power level for the Dragsta is 6 and the Boom Blaster is 5.
I mean, so you're probably looking somewhere between 90 to 120 points. If we follow the general math, I mean, they talk about as a general rule, every power level is 20 points. But that's assuming you go all out with all the upgrades, which you may not necessarily have to do.
Yeah, we don't know what comes standard and what you have to pay for once, in a codex format.
Yeah, and yeah, just keep in mind, we don't have the orc book in front of us, so we're just speculating at this point. But just trying to think of a unit that can threaten across a decent distance and deliver a bunch of mortal wounds before any attacks are made. I mean, It's not something I'm going to think, oh, well, I don't need to worry about this.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm really liking the Shock Jump Dragsta just for the novel Shock Tunnel rule and the fact that it can put that reliable Strength 8 D6 damage on folks. I mean, that's almost last cannon. That's almost a 2-shot last cannon.
Yep, just a little shy of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's better in some ways and worse in others.
Well, it's got an upside,
strength.
Too. If you wound on a 6, it's additional mortal wounds.
Yeah, and what's the hate about that?
Yeah, not fun. And the box set also comes with War Bikers. It's the standard War Biker kit. I used to have a knob biker army back.
Was that back in what, 4th, 5th edition?
Yeah,
that
4th
was real
and 5th.
good.
It was absolutely obnoxious. It was back when you could distribute wounds out. So you would arm them all slightly different. One would have a big chopper and a squig. Another guy would have a power claw and a custom blasta or something. So just a few points, you put in you make everyone unique, and then you could share out the wounds.
Gosh, that was so obnoxious. I remember some old Tactica with the Skull Taker and all the different blood crushers.
Same thing. Yeah. So you had the smoke screen and a big mech. Which one's the Mad Doc?
Like Grotznik?
You'd have the medic.
Yeah, the Mad Doc Grotznik.
Well, no, not that character. One. It was just the non-character version.
Oh, Pain Boy?
Pain Boy, that's what I was trying to say. Yep.
See, this is why you keep me on the show, Paul. I know what things are called sometimes.
There you go. I have the Pain Boy in there, and it was rude. It was very rude, but it was fun. And it was a fun army to play and a fun army to look at. That was the cool thing about it. Maybe not so fun to play against, but definitely fun to look at. But you can't do any of that now. That's not what we're saying now. But those same war bikes that have been around for a while. But yeah, so again, with everything that comes in the box, plus the rules for the game, I think it's a good value. And I think it's going to be in high demand because people are going to be trying to get these 2 vehicle kits.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet, especially with how they're kind of like dragging it out with their Dragstas on the release for the Orc book. People are definitely antsy to get their hands on some of this stuff.
The way the gameplay seems like it's going to be pretty interesting also, and if you are an orc enthusiast, I think it's pretty cool that they included all the stat cards for all the vehicles that are coming out. So you feel like you're getting a whole game, and you can use all the stuff when you eventually get it. I think the big truck that we saw spoiled recently, where they gave it the outline, like, hey, what is this? The Rucka Truck Squig Buggy.
Oh, this is so funny. I love this vehicle so much.
I think it looks great. But it's kind of interesting though that they're all on bases. So I'm not sure if that's something that's going to translate into other things, but these guys, I'm really happy that they are on bases, because what we're just talking about with that kind of strong assault profile.
Yeah.
People are going to be swinging these around, and it's not going to be ambiguous at all as to what part you're measuring from.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been one of the more dramatic things that people have kind of microscoped onto while they wait for the orc rules and things to come out, is just this idea: am I going to have to base all my vehicles now, and what would that look like? And I'm seeing this anxiety for all factions, right? It's like, am I going to have to base my rhinos? Why would I ever do that? That's stupid. I never want to. Calm down. Right, first off,
we play with game pieces. Like, who cares if it's on the base or not?
Yeah. Heck, the base could make it look cool, like a rhino mounting the curb.
It might. Well, let's take a break. We'll come back and do our section with Sarah, and then we'll come back and talk more about some orc stuff with you and I.
Sounds good.
FTN is also on Facebook. Please like us at www.facebook.com/Forge the Narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to this very special segment of Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul, your host. I'm joined today by Chris Morgan.
Hey.
And Sarah Hollingshead from Battlehaven.
Hey, how are you guys?
Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So as promised, want to touch base with you along the way as we get closer to Battlehaven.
Yeah, I'm getting so excited. We're on that kind of final stretch countdown. At least it feels like it.
Well, Battlehaven, the event is May 14th through the 18th. I think that's a Tuesday leading all the way till Saturday. That's 4 days and 4 nights of complete gaming immersion. It is a gaming vacation getaway.
That's correct. That's what it is. And we're really excited about it for this coming up year. We have a lot of really great things planned for all of our guests.
If people want to follow along with us while we're talking, you can go to battlehaven.us.
That's correct. That's the website. There should be some videos, some pictures and some great information there about the different packages and what we offer, and some great things just about Battlehaven, who we are and where we came from.
The packages are big, and I'd like to talk about that in just a couple of minutes, but I want to remind people that this is on an actual vacation resort.
Yeah, it's a private resort that just has us. So just all of Battlehaven will be going on with lots of room to spread out, and it's a beautiful property.
Can you talk a little bit more about this, the acreage, the things that are doing the property, where the event is being held?
Absolutely. This is taking place in the mountains and valleys of Utah, out in Heber City, which is a beautiful town. It's on a 20-acre private resort. There is a beautiful, huge, I think 20 plus thousand square foot building that the resort that we actually stay in and do all the gaming in. It's got wraparound decks and porches, a full-size heated pool that will be available throughout the whole event, and hot tub, basketball court, volleyball, sand volleyball, lake, a private lake, which is really a lot of fun, and fire pits, et cetera, et cetera. It's just beautiful. And there's some pictures there, so you can take a look at some of the terrain and the beautiful scenery.
I mean, it is. We're talking about scenic, and we're describing things that are going to sound fantastic, but the proof is there in the pictures.
It is beautiful. Reflection off the lake in the evening. One of my favorite spots upstairs, looking out across that as the sunset's coming in. And there's red rocks behind us and mountains all around us. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful place.
We talked about immersive gaming, and I know we've covered this before, so people that have heard the segment, I apologize, but as a bit of a refresher, themed days, evenings, lunches, dinners, and I don't just mean the names. You guys go all out in preparation and the showmanship of really professionally done gaming dinners.
That's right. We have always had really great food at this event, and our chef is coming in. That he was there last year, and in fact he has some background in gaming. Great guy, really excited about this. And so in addition to being just insanely good food, there's also themed, we've themed them all so they fit with some kind of gaming system or something that we have going on just for more fun. So there's terrain and all kinds of cool things, and we have more new things coming this year. Last year, one of my favorites was a classic American barbecue with orcs, and that was super fun. And we really liked that a lot. We had a 40k Imperium, so, city ruins, that just beautiful. And that all wrapped around your favorite armies. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was particularly flattered when I saw the giant Space Marine fortress walls with the Blood Angel symbol on them. I'm just going to throw that out there. I felt personally complimented by that.
I'm pretty sure that must have been just for you.
You could eat this stuff.
I don't know if you want to eat the terrain, but you definitely want to eat the food.
No, but we could. Every time I play on a table with that on there, I'm just like,
mouth-watering. It's just what it is. To bring back the memories.
We sometimes talk about tournaments on the show. This is not a tournament. This is really a getaway. There's open gaming. There are people there playing not just Games Workshop games, but a whole matter of different types of things over the course of the experience.
That's true. We have had a focus on 40K because nearly everyone that's there plays 40K or wants to, and so that's awesome. That's going on all the time. There are a lot of other game systems, and we're open. So I send out to our guests and say, okay, what do you want to play? So they can say, I'm really interested in this, or I'd really like to learn that, or I'm a lower level at this, but I'd like to get better. And then we have people to teach how to play games, how to get better at them, tricks of the trade, as well as really competitive players. So we've had some of the very top players in the world coming and being at Battlehaven and really just working with everybody that's there to have an awesome time. So you can get really competitive for fun because it's all about the fun, or you can just come and figure it out. And,
well, you hang out and you could choose what you want to do during the day, go on an excursion, take in the scenery, or do that, I guess, in the evening or whatever, and play when your heart tells you want to play.
True, and
you can keep playing well past bedtime.
That's what I was going to say. We have people that play kind of around the clock. So, you can stay in and just play one game after another. So many people ready to play. And you can also take off for a couple hours or just hang out, go down and play billiards for a little while, watch a movie in the theater. There's a lot of things to do on site if you just want some breaks in between or want to hang out and get to know people better.
And there are things to do that are outside of the resort too, that are accessible from where you'll be based.
There really are, and within a really short distance. Heber is just this beautiful pastoral looking place. It's gorgeous, but it's just minutes from Park City, which is well known around the world for the Sundance Film Festival, as well as just being a great ski resort. And this time of year, it's lovely. So it's just a beautiful time. It's more quiet, so you can really enjoy all of that. Sundance is the other direction, probably 15, 20 minutes. Also a beautiful place to go. Lots of art, lots of scenery, places to hike, biking. There's zip lines within a few minutes. There's trails or horses. There's so much of that natural outdoor sort of things to do, rivers and waterfalls, etc. But there's also shopping. There's places to go and see art. I mean, there's just a lot to do. And Salt Lake is not very far either, and there's always so much going on there. So there's everything from day life, outdoor life, and nightlife all around.
And we
anything
talked about,
that you're looking for, we've got.
We were talking about earlier about the packages, about how to actually get there. I mean, this sounds amazing, and it also sounds, like it might be something you have to plan in advance for, but you've made it accessible to folks that might be able to start planning right now for this event happening in May.
Absolutely. Part of taking a little bit of extra time is to give time for people to be able to come no matter what, so that it's not out of anyone's range. So in doing that, we not only keep the pricing very, very competitive. In fact, if you add it all up, it's probably less than going to a con, for a few days with hotel and everything else. And then it's all inclusive. So this has breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all the on-site amenities, and getting you out to where you want to go for other items as well. So it seems like it would be really expensive, but it's actually really affordable and not required to have everything all at once. We set up payment plans, customized. for each person so that they can have that taken care of before they come.
And that information is on the website. So if people are just curious if it's something that's attainable to them, they can check it out.
Absolutely. So there's still time to split up to do a 25% deposit and then to split up the remaining balance into monthly or less. You know, you can go 5 more payments, 4 more payments, 3 more payments, and have it all just broken up so that it fits every budget.
And you guys have made arrangements with a local hotel, which I think it's either brand new or it's recently renovated. It's
brand new. It's the newest hotel in Heber. It's really very nice, and it's just directly straight down the road. Really close, a couple of minutes away from Battlehaven. So you can have the full experience and still do a full private room. And it's really close by. And that's a very, very, very affordable option.
Well, if the room types that people are wanting aren't available at the lodge currently because they've already been sold or they have some special considerations or whatever, they can take advantage of this at the nearby hotel.
Exactly.
And then come in every day for the full Battlehaven experience.
And it's really, as I said, just a couple minutes away. They would be there as long and as early as they want, there for all the meals and everything. The only difference would be just staying off site for sleeping. And it's super close. And they've given us a great discount. So all Battlehaven guests get 20% off their list rates, which is fantastic.
That's really great.
Yeah, if you come with a friend, it's even better.
And you might even get to see more of the environment too as you're coming in.
Sure. It's really a great deal.
Every time I go to Battlehaven, I feel like there's a new thing. I mean, every year the food themes have been a little bit different, and I've seen new tables. What stuff do you guys have in the works for like terrain or anything like that? Like what kind of game environments can we expect to see that we haven't seen in previous years?
Absolutely. There's quite a bit in the works right now. 40k Amateur Hour, the guys from there, they've been working on some terrain, and I've seen some beautiful shots of how that's coming. And so there's some great ruins and some beautiful buildings and so forth that are coming from them. Those are really great. I have a few others that our team has been working on as well. And let me tell you what some of those are. I kind of wrote them down so I wouldn't mess it up and forget. But I know that one of the things that I'm really excited, and I've seen it in the process, is a crashed 40k ship. That's going to be amazing looking. Those are being made custom. And so there's all these parts that are coming together from 3D printing, et cetera, et cetera. It's just gorgeous.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. And
I can already see myself doing like a 40k Black Hawk Down crossover scenario, something like that. That
might be necessary. Let's just plan on that. That's great. And let's see, there's a new ground terrain, a few sets actually to coincide with new X-Wing rules. There are updates with the Imperial Spaceport and Rebel Outpost terrain to go with that, and that's going to be fun. And some new Infinity terrain. I know that there is an asteroid mining facility. That's one of the things that they're working on as well. And let's see what else. There's really some terrain that will go between both Infinity and 40k very easily that can be used for both, so the terrain will work. Let's see. I know there's an update to the Infinity Paradiso campaign that's coming out shortly, so they're building a theme table for that. An overgrown jungle that's taking over like a sci-fi city.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. They're also doing a full set, and I have been watching this. This has been beautiful because they've been working on it at some of our paint nights at local stores. So it's a full set of Zombicide, Black Plague, but it's including all the expansions. So there's a zombie dragon, zombie wolves, zombie orcs, and a few hundred normal zombies, and then as many survivors as they can find to fit that set. So that's going to be really fun because I play that a lot, and that's really
I love
great.
the way you worded that, as many survivors as they can find.
As they can, yeah, what's that? Whatever's left from Zombicide. So you can tell we do all different kinds of things, from card games and to board games.
And some of the stuff is all going on at the same time. Like people could be doing something on one side of the room. There's something completely different going on the other side of the room, or there's just space for people to if they want to bring paint, if they want to paint, something, they want to read, they just want to chill out, they want or get deep into a board game all their own.
I did all of those things in one day.
I was going to say, Chris is a good example because you could see him hanging out, working on something. Were you in school for a bit there, Chris, on one of the times?
Yeah.
And you were studying for like a little while, and then you were out playing a game and doing a board game and working on your fig. So it was great. We have a station that we have set up for repairs. as well. We have all the supplies for that. We have classes, so you can learn some awesome skills that you're interested in. And
yeah, there were airbrush classes. There were like vehicle weathering classes done
10
by
to 15
people,
tables are available at any time, at least, for playing games. So all of that can be going on, as well as all the tables for card games and board games.
And it's cool because like you go there and it's not like one of those things where you go and you show up and you're like, oh, that's great, that was a good time, and you don't walk away with anything. There's stuff there that you can walk away from. Every night there was some kind of raffle. I know one of the funny pictures that came out of the last Battlehaven was a Forged Narrative shirt that was built for someone Justin Troop sized. That in the raffle ended up going to somebody who is not Justin Troop size, which it pretty much looked like the FTN dress on this guy. It was
belts.
We have a special category for that.
Right.
That's what we need, some FTN belts.
Yep.
Sarah, this is all great stuff. I hope as we get even move closer, maybe after the holidays, we come back with you and see what's going on, see what's developed. I know that you're working on some other excursions and things to do, and the event's just going to continue to build probably up until the day of.
It will. There'll be more and more. We just want to keep adding and making it as much fun and as much value as we can cram into 4 solid days and nights. And we're excited about that. And, I didn't mention, but this is a great experience for people to bring a significant other to. And I think that gets left out a lot, that there's so much to do. And you don't have
at your own pace too. A lot of times, at say a real traditional tournament, we won't get to hang out with the SO because we're locked into something specific for 12 hours a day, 9 hours a day, or whatever. This you can kind of plan your own type of event. You can make it what you need it to be for everybody there.
Exactly, and go at your own pace.
Yeah.
And that's great when you're eating as much as we're eating and playing as much as we're playing. It's great to just fit it around how you feel. Take a nap in your room if you'd like, or like I said, go watch a movie, hang out, eat some more. Just whatever you want to do. That's
an awesome point. So this is May 14th through the 18th. You can it's 2019. You can find out more information and see all these pictures and pictures from last event that we were talking about at battlehaven.us.
That's right. And if there's any questions, just reach out to me. I'm at battlehavenevents@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to clarify anything, work with people on payment plans, etc., whatever. So totally available.
Sarah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Paul and Chris. It's great to talk to you guys.
Chris, we'll come back with you and I right after this segment.
Yep.
See ya.
Cheers.
FTN is brought to you by Bell of Lost Souls. Check out www.bols.org for the best daily hobby articles on the web.
Everybody, we are back. Got me and Chris.
I'm still here.
So I'm talking about the hobby segment. I've been doing a lot of thinking about, what's the best way to get an orc army on the table as soon as possible.
Before he says it, Athonian Camoshade?
Well, okay, hold tight. I do want to say this section is sponsored by Discount Games Inc. We had Jay on the show last week talking about his chess clock experience, and I want to have him on for a couple of reasons. One, because they've got their own podcast they do for the War Machine, been going on for many, many years at this point, longer than we've been doing this show. And I thought it'd be a good translation from how they've been doing it to show how it can work. It takes a little bit while to adopt. Any kind of change does. But they seem to really like how it affects their games. And, I think that as we start to digest it more, we'll see that the upside greatly outweighs the hassle of adopting the new change. But I also want to introduce everybody to Jay, because Jay's been really great to talk to, and I think that's definitely going to translate into his customer service, and people will not be disappointed dealing with him. He does have Games Workshop product and a whole other list of stuff available on his site at a discount, and he alluded to ways that people can, as far as loyalty bonuses and stuff, could even save more on their hobby projects. Definitely check him out there at discountgamesinc.com.
Nice.
Painting orcs, painting large things. And then it got me thinking about, okay, yeah, maybe I could kick out a bunch of orcs. I paint fast. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the result. I know some cheats. Artists, I think, would call them techniques. But for us, I'm a non-artist. I call them cheats. But
hacks.
It got me thinking about what do I want out of my hobby time, and what do I want the end product to look like? What do I really need? What am I doing it for? Am I doing it just for a 3-color minimum or whatever the non-shame tabletop quality in my local area? Is that all I want? Do I just want to get the stuff passable? Am I trying to make showcase pieces? The answer for me is I'm never trying to make showcase pieces. I have entered a couple of painting competitions though, but just to test myself. I typically try to enter, or the ones I've tried to enter had some prerequisites. Like it wasn't a paint whatever you want. It was, I think the one that I did the best in was paint a high elf. And you had to mount the high elf on it had to stay mounted on his 25 millimeter base, the square base. Couldn't be.
I thought you were going to say you had to put him on something high because he was a high elf.
Well, that's not funny.
Hey man, I could have gone a different direction with the high joke. All right.
But I did see that. Okay, cool. I haven't painted a high elf in forever. It's got these requirements that frames it in to something that all the other people that enter are going to be limited to that. So let me see if I could really max out those limitations and make it look good. I got second in that competition, by the way. No, the guy that got first was miles ahead of me, though. Okay. But it was still fun to do. But again, I'm not going for showcase. But I do want my stuff to look good. So how much time do I have to put in to make it look good? And that's what leads me down my journey of looking at all these tutorials. So I thought it'd be cool to have a segment on the show like worst tutorial I found this week. But I really don't want to make it seem like that I'm coming down on it, because that kind of stuff, there's still value there. They're good for even putting it out. Like it's really cool. It's just funny, but I definitely don't want to do that. I don't want to make it sound, off or whatever. But,
oh boy.
But that's why I go to watch all these tutorials to figure out like ways that I can incorporate them into my style and take a little bit something away from every single one of them. One of my favorite tutorials was, it was about 90% through the tutorials, and the person was like, you know what? Like, do it or not do it. It's up to you. It's your own thing. Right. Yeah, whatever. I was like, that kind of brutal honesty I really need to hear right now.
Or you could not.
Yeah, right. I'm digressing a little bit, but what do you want to get out of the hobby? It kind of leads into that. There's that article floating around about, celebrating mediocrity or whatever. I don't like that title because I think mediocrity is it's a term that it might not be mediocre to you. That may be the best you could possibly do, and that's cool also.
Mediocrity in a hobby is so subjective too when you think about it, because the way you talked about your approach to the hobby, right? It's a little bit different than mine, and my approach to the hobby tends to change from model to model. There are some models where I am looking to experiment, to try something new. Like I have a librarian that I painted up with a jump pack. I converted him from a sanguinary priest model, and it was my first time testing out both sculpting green stuff fire on a weapon and then also doing object source lighting. And it was a total experiment, and it turned out really well. And I spent way more time on that model than I did on, say, a squad of 10 TAC Marines that I had done a couple years before, trying to get a unit ready to play on the table, Mm-hmm. So far as like per model, and it all had to do with what I was trying to get done. In one instance, I was trying to get a squad painted so that I could put it on the table and not feel too ashamed. But I didn't spend a lot of time doing freehand and doing a whole bunch of different stuff like that, or advanced painting techniques. But with the one hero model, and I tend to do this with characters a lot because it's so easy to just get focused in on one guy, where I'm testing out something new and I'm trying to be more of an artiste.
So let me go down this list of things for what I would take away from a tutorial. Now this is the steps that I'm going to list out here for painting an orc actually come from one. I think he's on the heavy metal team at GW. He goes by the name of Brother Tom on Twitter. And he said, here's a great guide for painting orc flesh. And, and I'm looking down the steps here. I'm like mentally checking off. Well, I'm not doing that, and I'm not going to do that.
Or you could not.
I'm not doing that. Well, okay. The first one is base coat, Averland Sunset mixed with Starstink Green on a 2 to 3 ratio.
Okay, so he starts with mixed paint. Okay.
And then this next step here is soft shade with Beltane green. Now, I asked him, what does soft shade mean? And his reply was, for the soft shade, you want to be achieving a transition from the base coat to the shade. So you want to apply it quite softly. This is a good shade to start subtly defining the shapes of the model by thinking where the shadows from your light source would be applied.
Okay. So this is feeling less and less like a quick guide to orc flesh.
See, well, he doesn't say quick. He does not say quick. This is just a painting orc flesh tip guide. This is not quick.
I redact my criticism.
Yeah. Nor is he trying. The model he has as the example here is a beautiful heavy metal painted model. What you would expect, from looking at the Games Workshop examples on their website. Absolutely amazing model. Subtlety and stuff. But the soft shade there, light sources and stuff, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not doing that. I'm not discounting it. Like, it's the proof is in the pudding. It looks beautiful, but I'm thinking, that is not something I think I can do when I'm going to be trying to get out 100 orcs real fast.
Yeah, for 100 boys, that sounds like a year-long project.
You never know, whatever, especially when you get, as you do things that get easier. Then he says a deep shade with Colia green shade. Colia green shade is,
I really like that color. I use that on the orcs that I've painted.
It's a darker green. It doesn't have brown.
Got quite a bit of blue in it.
It's blue.
Too.
Yeah, it's a bluish green, not a brownish green like the camo shade. Then it goes to highlight Ogren camo and then highlight Krieg khaki. That's that secret tech. The bone colors on top of green look real good.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that unsung heroes of the paint world are those light creamy tan colors.
Yeah, well, they have some green in them. They got to have some green in them. I think somewhere in the mixture or whatever, there's some little trace amount of green.
They work well on reds too. That's the thing.
Green is one of the colors that help gives you a good strong red sometimes. So highlight Screaming Skull mixed with White Scar at a 2-to-1 ratio. Probably not doing that, but okay. I'm just being honest.
But have we gotten to a step that you're going to do?
Not so far, but we're right there.
It's almost finished.
Well, okay. So what I'm gonna do is probably base the skin Averland Sunset, and then I'm gonna go into the skin with different colors of washes. Like I might have some boys that are with Beltane green, some of them with a Colia green shade, and some of them with Athonian camo shade to give me some variation throughout the squads or just the overall look of the army.
That's not a terrible idea so far as, and it's not beyond thought that orc units could have squad markings or differentiations in armor plating coloring or anything like that.
Well, then you got the armor plates for consistency or variation like you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's a creative choice that people are welcome to make. I really do like the idea of yellow as a base, because it really brightens up that green quite a bit in a way that isn't just a white-green mix, if that makes sense.
Yeah, green on top of another green or whatever. But let me be clear, mine's not going to look like this example here either. It's nowhere near at this stage. Let me say that. Nowhere near at this stage. The next thing, though, I think this is the secret sauce from this list of tips. Step 7. It's his step 7. Is glaze around the lips, nose, ears, and other fleshy areas with Kislev flesh mixed with Lamia medium on a 1-to-4 ratio. That, I think, is absolutely awesome. We see Lamia medium talked about a lot, but we don't. I'm not sure that a lot of people use it.
I love to use that when I'm making my own glazes and things. Famously, Duncan Rhodes talks about thinning your paints, right? Thinning your paints with water. La-di-da-di-da. The thing that Lamia medium does that water doesn't is that it preserves kind of the distribution of the pigment better.
It doesn't
than
change,
water.
Yeah, it doesn't change the
consistency
of the paint.
The way that the two different materials bond. Basically, it's the same kind of stuff that you would use to thin your paints with. So I really love that. Having that as something I can do.
So I think that where I would probably save time and also not get the same look from the actual skin itself, I might be able to capture some of what I'm saying is this is what I would take out of this tutorial. There's, of course, immense payoff in following it to the letter. I'm not able to do all this stuff. But what I can do, I can make that mixture and get that really cool look, because if you look at all the orcs on if you look at the really, really well painted orcs, the ones that really catch your eye the most, they've all got that effect on some of their lips and their ears and noses and stuff. And it gives it a really polished, professional looking feel to it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's a really good tip.
So I might, you just kind of fumble around and get some good variation in the skin tones by that, what I'm talking about, like maybe an Hourland Sunset as the base and then a series of different color washes to represent what I want, or mixes of washes or whatever. Or maybe I find one that just looks better than the rest, and that's what I go with. I'm going to bet that it's Everland Sunset with a Thonian camo shade. But then go back in with this really, what I think is attainable pro tip. And then you start to get, the army looks a lot better, because you're looking at the orc flesh is going to be broken up by this really interesting effect. It's going to make it look, well, again, more put together, but just by defining that, you're going to give context for everything else in the model, and it's all going to look better.
And working with a lot of washes when you're doing batch painting ends up working pretty well, especially if you're doing lots of models at the same time. Because washes, and it's a little easier for me because I am in a very arid, non-humid kind of environment. So if I'm doing washes on even 10 models at a time, usually by the time I get to the 10th one, the first one's dry. Now, depending on where you are, that may go up to 15 or 20. So don't take that as the gospel per se. But you have this benefit when you're using washes on a long string of miniatures, that it's taken some time to dry, but it's taken some time to get through it too. So you can just kind of keep going, pick up with the next,
especially if you're doing
one.
30 boys, which I really suggest, if you are doing this kind of stuff, to batch paint it and assembly line paint it. So obviously those terms mean different things to other people, but I mean, decide you're going to paint their pants in one sitting, and then paint all their pants, and don't stop till you have all the pants painted.
Yep. Even if there's a hurricane coming, you finish all them pants.
Well, with gems, let's say for gems, for instance, or things that require multiple coats, it gets super fast when you're on that second edge highlight. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that everyone needs a second edge highlight. I'm just saying when you're on that second highlight color, it goes incredibly fast.
I think part of that comes with knowing where they are on the model. I think gems are secretly more difficult because maybe by the time you get to the 10th model with gems, you've missed a couple because you're getting a little impatient. Or
we're talking about speed painting too. The bottom coat, you could be a little less careful or a little less sharp with some of the more bottom coats, as long as you nail those top coats. Like, for instance, if you wanted to get a leather effect on the boys' pants, or some of them have vest or whatever, you could dry brush that first highlight and then go back in with the brush, the normal, I don't even know what, a normal paint. It's not the non-dry brush. You get highlight with, and you're going to kind of forgive some of that dry brush. Because dry brush, if depending on how heavy you are or quick it is, you could get a kind of a fuzzy effect. I don't like the fuzzy effect, especially. Well, it depends on what texture I'm going for, but more often than not, I don't like the fuzzy effect.
Very dependent on the texture you're intending to put on there. But yeah, even that Lamian medium color, like say you do get fuzzy, and I shouldn't call it a color because it's basically transparent. It's just something to thin your paints with. I have at times run into kind of a fuzzy or a stipple problem on models that I've done, where I've taken the color it's supposed to be and then I thin it with the Lamian medium and then put that as kind of a glaze over the fuzzy parts, and it smoothed it out without adding like a whole extra layer of paint, and preserves kind of the way that light works, right? Light is reflecting not just on the surface color, but the colors underneath. So it preserves that underneath and saves you a lot of extra steps going back and refixing if you're on like your top layer.
I know we're talking about a lot of different terms, but like there's a big difference between glazes and washes and whatever. And to sometimes repair a dry brush, an overbrush with a dry brush, I've made a little bit of glaze of the base paint.
Hopefully everyone's ears aren't glazing over. Or wait, is that how that works?
It's not.
Hey, it's radio, so.
Well, and I know I was maybe a little casual in describing the steps in this tutorial, but I wanted to showcase one to where I may watch or read or whatever 10 tutorials and find the thing that works best for me and gives me the outcome that I'm satisfied with. And I think that's perfectly reasonable to do. Like you kind of have to judge. You have to set what your own level of success and contentment is and what you want to be getting out of your hobby. And that's, that's perfect. I mean, that's really what we should be doing. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't want to have a nicer looking stuff than the next guy. There can be competition and there can be like a competitive or being proud of yourself. I'm not saying that, but I'm not going to go into like trying to follow this particular tutorial and feel like I'm going to come out on the other side of it because I'm kind of set with the exact same result because I feel like I'd be almost setting myself up for failure. And then that's going to put me kind of into like a hobby depression almost. But what I've learned to do to keep myself motivated is find the things that are attainable. Maybe it may be a stretch. Maybe it's a stretch goal, as it were. But I can take that and then I can put it into action and I can have something that I'm really proud of on the end. And that helps me go to the next thing and try something else and watch 10 more tutorials and do something else.
It also helps kind of develop your own personal style. There's a lot to be gained from watching how other people do things, especially when you're learning rudimentary techniques and just the ideas behind stuff like we talked about, like with glazes. What makes it a glaze? You learn
to do this thing with the lips and the nose, then that opens up a whole other possibility for you the next time you're painting something alien.
It's actually something with a non-human skin color.
Well, in my opinion, it's actually easier to paint non-human skin colors because it can be pretty much whatever it is you want it to be. We all know what humans look like. We have a rough idea of what orcs look like.
We have an abstract idea of it. But the point I was making is you're developing your own style, and it's gonna depend on what your personal objective is when you are painting up your miniatures, what you want them to look like on the table. And I think that you need to have that kind of objective, even if that's, I've known people who have done the dipped Hormigaunt method, and it's not glamorous, but it gets stuff done.
Well, it gets them playing with it when they wouldn't before. I guess what I really want to say in the speed painting thing, it's not about necessarily cutting corners or not making it look good, but if I was coming in from scratch, maybe I'm fresh starting the Orc Army, I would string together a series of things, probably from multiple sources, that's going to give me my desired outcome and something I'm happy with. And I think that's probably the best way to painting 120 figures at one time that you all want to look consistent. Find things that you can do and string them all together to get a really good outcome. And then do things, and then find some of these like really, really pro tips, like the lips and nose type thing. It doesn't have to be that. You might just nail painting all the lenses. Maybe you nail painting check marks, or whatever it is your orc glyphs are. Maybe that's what your standout thing is. But if you could focus on a couple of the standout things, you might get your army on the table a lot quicker and still catch eyes as people are walking by.
I think that's solid advice, and I think that it's good that we talk about painting your minis and painting them to your own standard.
Yeah, that's it, man. Well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back with another segment, and then Chris, we'll talk next week.
Yeah, sounds good.
Have a good one.
Cheers.
You're listening to Forge the Narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to a very special segment of Forge the Narrative. I'm joined tonight by Johnny Fraser Allen and Ike Hammond from Tabletop Troubadour.
Hey everyone.
Hey guys.
Nice to be here.
Thank you all very much for joining me. You are all the way on the other side of the world.
Yep, it's Friday morning in New Zealand. What time is it where you are?
It's a little bit after 5 p.m., almost 6 p.m. when we're doing this recording.
On a Friday or Thursday?
It's Thursday.
Okay, cool.
I'm in the past.
You're in the future.
Yeah, we're in the future. Wow.
How does it feel? Well, the reason I'm having you guys on is to talk about your Kickstarter campaign going on right now. This is for the Hagglethorn Hollow terrain set. And I mean, it's more than, I feel like I'm oversimplifying it by just saying terrain. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, thank you. That's right. It's, we've woke up this morning to our final week of counting down. I mean, obviously, we were speaking before when you mentioned running a Kickstarter is a 24/7 full-time job, and it is, but it's been, and it, we were not nervous. We had everything under control, and we have crossed every T and dotted every I. But you have a bit of, because it's our first, a bit of anticipation leading into that month, and it has been a lot of hard work, but it's been so rewarding and so fun, and the community that has formed around the actual Kickstarter itself has made hard work really fun, and you know, it's been a treat. I look forward to getting up every morning and getting back onto it. I mean, I'm a bit of a workaholic anyway, and yeah, every time a stretch goal is unlocked, I just can't wait for the Kickstarter to wrap up so I can start posting them, you know?
Well, I pledged, so like I'm excited. I was very enthusiastic. Me, like a lot of other people, I saw you, Johnny, on with Adam Savage on Tested.
Right.
And from then on, I knew that. I showed it to my wife. I said, we're getting this.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's great. That was a great video, a great day. He's an awesome guy. Like, you know, when he walked into the studios and saw what we'd set up, I sort of started to explain it to him, and he turned around and said, I don't want to look at it. Let's just roll camera. Like, he didn't let me show it to him until the camera was on. And so so all of his surprises are natural, and he didn't even really quite know what he was looking at or what he had come to see, but he was very excited when I let him know that, because what had happened is 18 months earlier he'd been knocking around our way, and he wanted to see something I'd been working on, and so I go, yeah man, just come have a look. And as I'm showing him, he just puts a microphone on me, and the cameraman starts doing light test, which is why I look so homeless in that first video. And I'm like, what? And the whole, I'm enjoying talking to this enthusiastic, creative guy, but the whole time it's like, this is nothing. This is going to be so big. This is just a little square foot of something I've been knocking around with. I just wish you were here, you know, when I'd finished this, because I've got such big plans. But that was happening in my head. And so when I heard he was coming back and he let me know he was heading over, we put extra, you know, we worked around the clock to finish that display and create that display to show off the product, because that was what I was doing. I wasn't making some finicky little labyrinth thing. I was building this world, and to be able to share that with him, I don't think he quite knew what he was really going to see. And so when
you could tell that in his videos, that he's very genuine with his enthusiasm and just wanted to really be a part of it and experience it and stuff. And even I got caught up, and I love Adam's work. I was in my mind, I'm like, Adam, be quiet. I want to hear about this guy's character and campaign and world. That's what I'm trying to beam into the screen. But that's how there was like just a mounting enthusiasm from you both that I think really was really fun to watch.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, there's been a huge outpouring of support for it from that video, and lots of just incredibly positive comments and feedback of people being excited that it's just, you know what I mean? It's a celebration of craft, really. You know, I feel physically ill if I go through a day without being creative, so I've got to put that towards something. And that year, it happened to be creating Hagglethorn Hollow.
Is that how you and Ike work? And Ike, please let me know. But is that you're the full forward on the creative side, and Ike helps keep all this running on the backside? How does that work?
Yeah, I'm the dream killer at times, I think. When we first started this, me and Johnny, I mean, our history goes back quite a few years. I work in the film industry, and I got to know Johnny through some mutual friends. We actually worked together before we even knew each other, actually, on a small project. Johnny was actually, what was your character? Some weird dwarf thingy.
What are you talking about? Yeah, I thought he was a zombie.
Yeah,
So there was this, I can't say much about it because of an NDA, but one of the world's biggest computer games got made into some like kind of $30 million 30-minute advert, and it was filmed in New Zealand with a massive director. My friend was casting it, and she told me to audition. I'm not an actor, but I auditioned just to take the piss, and I accidentally landed my role as one of the leads as this sleazy little wood elf.
Yeah. So I turned up we worked on the same set, the same project. My history in film is I'm a stunt performer and a stunt coordinator. So I've been, you know, in my own way, you know, my job is to go to work and get dressed up and play make-believe all day and get beat up. So me and Johnny, that was our first kind of introduction. I was in a full prosthetic zombie costume and outfit. And I got beat up by his band of warriors. And then years later, kind of come back around again. We get involved, and I'm back kind of working closely with him on another project in the film industry. And suddenly the love of games and everything, it all kind of comes together. But my history as well before film and even during it is that I have done a lot of marketing and campaign management. So it's an easy little, it was a way I could also kind of keep that kind of muscle alive, I guess, you know. I would often just kind of help people out with kind of strategic planning and bits and pieces outside of film work. So it all kind of came together when we wanted this project. And it's like, well, I can handle this side of things, the business side of production, and you're on the creative side, basically the creative director. And my first thing was like, great, let's make 3 buildings. And of course, you can see it's gone way beyond 3 buildings, because every time I went to catch up with them over the weeks, it's like, yeah, so I've got another building, another dungeon, these ruins, I'm like, dude, what happened to 3 buildings? And I'm like, look, just okay. Yeah. It was easier not to.
We tried for 3. This is what happened.
I tried, but like...
well, we started actually. I've over the 15 years I've worked at Weta Workshop as a creature and designer and world builder, conceptual design and sculpting. You know, Narnia and The Hobbit and Spielberg's BFG and Tintin and stuff. You know, between those gigs and after hours at work, I've built several of my own worlds, and the Gloaming, Wandering Woods, and the.
You are a gamer, right? Like, you guys are both game, and this
we're both gamers, exactly right. So I saw this kind of like dragon horde of kind of assets and intellectual property that I'd developed, but was really just sitting on because I'm just the creative head. You know, I didn't quite know how to get it out there, but I didn't want to undersell it or get it out there just for the sake of it. I wanted it to get out there properly. Mm-hmm. And Ike and I were on a board gaming road trip across the United States heading towards Gen Con a couple years ago, and we're in this kind of Walter White RV in the desert. And we just were talking about this, and, you know, we're Kickstarter obsessed and have backed so many projects, and we're just saying that there's no reason we can't do stuff like this. So originally, the company was founded on turning some of these illustrative assets I've got into games, because as a gamer, my stories and my illustrations it naturally feeds into them, and they're really they're great for games. But in the meantime, because I've always got a couple projects going, I'd started building myself a little medieval village, which becomes Hagglethorn Hollow in the story. But back then it was because I play so many games like Games Workshop's Lord of the Rings and Age of Sigmar and Super Dungeon Explorer and Hero Quest and Frostgrave and Black Plague and all these games that are great on cardboard, but the miniatures these days are so great that I want the scenery to complement that. In the same way that the biggest character in The Lord of the Rings is actually Middle-earth, you know, I want that to be present. So I started building my own city because, for me personally, I didn't feel the buildings you could buy online currently were big enough or towering enough or teetering enough. And so I thought I could spend a bunch of money buying another product, or I could put that money towards my own molding costs and just make myself a personalized little village. And that's what Ike saw. And he said, hey, which at the time was the start of 3 buildings. And he says, hey, we should sell those. We could, that people might be interested in those if you're interested in them as a gamer. And at first I wasn't really for it, because I thought, the artist in me, it's like, I don't think they're good enough for a product. No one else will like these. They're so aimed towards what I want out of scenery. But of course, that is how you create something original and interesting. That's how you get a film like Labyrinth or Blade Runner. Those films are made for the director, and other people happen to find an interest in them when they come out.
That's very interesting to hear. If people want to follow along, they can find us at the Hagglethorn Hollow Kickstarter, the Haggleethorn Hollow Kickstarter. You guys started with a pledge goal of 39,000 US approximately. You're already at 262,000 US with 667 backers.
I look at it in New Zealand dollars, but that sounds good. Yeah, we're very happy to hit that goal. 3.5 hours in, we hit our goal, and we're like, great, this is fantastic, and this is where we had hoped we would be, but you kind of have reservations. You just want to, again, especially from me, kind of with my role, I also didn't want to put anything on Johnny, which kind of interrupted his creative process and kind of made dictations to what he should create. I'm like, I just want him to create for himself, with the faith that people, like-minded people, will be drawn to it. And I didn't ever want, and this is something that I feel very strongly with any kind of creative endeavor, that you never design by committee, just it should just be one person's passion, their vision, and just find a way to feed that. And so for me, that was my job, just find a way to bring this to the market, to keep feeding Johnny's passion, and just once in a while kill his dreams when I tell him that, no, that's way too
got to be a little practical sometimes. I get it. But if people haven't checked this out or seen what we're talking about, as we start to talk about the design elements and what makes them unique and stuff, they should really check it out. I'm not even sure our words are going to do them justice. When you see some of these pictures, it is literally like bam. It is so unique and so original. And then when we start to talk about the functionality, you're going to want to see it.
Well, that's nice of you to say, because as I said and I alluded to before, passion. When I see passion projects, like the passion shines through. Like you can see that in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy and other, artistic endeavors where people were just crazy to get them done. And like for every dream Ike kills, he lets me get 3 of my dreams in, and that's a good balance. You know what I mean? And honestly, he jokes about it. This has basically never happened. Like because I've worked in film for 15 years, and I've helped facilitate Peter Jackson's dreams or Spielberg's dreams, and it's been fun, and I've been paid to grow as an artist. But at the end of the day, and it's not an ego thing or some kind of self-importance thing. It's just I'm the happiest when I'm left to my own devices to to physically produce the worlds in my head, and get them in front of me. My background is, my other project, The Gloaming, is this fantasy world full of mythological fantasy sculptures. So rather than illustrate these creatures, I built them all life-size over a period of about 10 years.
Can I join you guys' gaming group? Can I do that?
Yeah. and so Hagglethorn Hollow all ties into that. The reason that Hagglethorn Hollow looks the way it does is because I'm also an illustrator that illustrates in sculpture. So primarily I started sculpting this town to be the town in these photographic shots that I create. So I needed it to look as good as a film set. And I wanted to challenge myself to that because I love a good challenge, because I'd never sculpted buildings before, But because I know the insane amount of investment cost it was going to require of me to mold these and cast these and which has been huge, I thought I want to get more out of these and I want these on my tabletop. I may as well sculpt them at 28 millimeter to go with all of my different board games. And I thought, you know what? Well, if I'm going to be using them for board games, they better have an interior. And it's like, you know what? If I'm going to spend a while painting these, it takes a long time to get these tabletop ready. So let's maximize the components I've got. And if I make an alternate roof but keep the bottom of the building, then I've created an entirely different town for half the effort. I mean, it's still a lot of effort, and then I just started getting really interested in the modularity of it. In the same way that you might see from some of my personal Games Workshop armies, like my favorite part of that hobby is kit bashing. I love creating your own thing out of modular components, and that really fed into Hagglethorn Hollow. Behind Ike's back, I started sneaking in the dungeons. They weren't supposed to be in it, but I thought,
it's just the basement of this building. Oh no, now it's a series of dungeons.
Yeah, Ike would come in and go, "What's that?" I'm like, "You don't need to worry about that, man." Sorry. But they're my favorite part. I think they helped turn 3 components into 7 playable gaming options for one building.
Can we talk about the options for a second? Because when people see the pictures, and I just highly encourage people to go take a look and drool over it. Even if you can't get them right now, you should take a look. But the buildings are designed, even the 3- and 4-story buildings, they're designed to where the individual stories can function as their own buildings, or you can stack them up to be either a certain town in a certain configuration, or the next time you visit the area or you get sent away to do something else in a campaign, you can configure the roof and the base level and the bottom level in a different way.
Yeah, we approached it. I mean, as it started to come together, and we're very careful how we would use the word, the modularity, because it's not at the same sort of Lego level as something like Dwarven Forge, completely 100%. Customizable, but we wanted to basically have a product which was so quick to place and play, but still you had, with 1 or 2 buildings, you could have maybe 7 different options on how they could look and function on the board. And to add to that, and this speaks to Johnny's design, everything has been designed in, I think it's referred to as asymmetrical symmetry.
Yeah.
So that it means that you can have a building on a board, turn it 45 degrees, and it's a completely different silhouette, has a completely different feel. You take off the dungeon, it drops a level. You take off the floor, it drops down again.
You were getting confused with the images of the same building, putting it together on the Kickstarter.
You can, yeah.
I don't think that's not the same building, is it?
Yeah. But I think it's such a nice kind of element where you don't have to completely break it down. You can do just so minimal kind of steps. You can actually change your board up and the skyline up radically. And I think, like we're saying, all the bases, certain bases work with certain roofs. But it means that you can swap roofs in and out. So you can, if you were to buy, like there is a pledge level, which gives you a very big building called the Tavern and a smaller building called the Cottage. And you can then go and with the add-ons and you can purchase the alternate thatch roofs for those two building bases, which means you don't, for someone who doesn't have a lot of storage, and these are big, there's no hiding that. And people have made comment like, I'm going to have to, put my kid out to sleep in the lounge because, we're going to take over their room.
We're fine with it.
And that's
it's cool.
Absolutely see that's a valid way to go. But we want to make sure people had just a lot of variety in their choice, and in the way that Johnny's kind of designs and put together. It really it's something that is very, I think, unique in the market without sacrificing the design elements at all.
Well, that's right. For me, first and foremost, the important thing was the look of the building. And I mentioned it in the Adam Savage video, like, I didn't want Tudor beams. Like, shout out to another company. I was online looking at what you could buy, and I love Tabletop World stuff. But there's no but. It's a great product. There's Tudor beams in it, which is quintessential fantasy. Like
design style. Those are
design style. And I couldn't find any product that wasn't that Tudor beam thing. And for me, that ornament, because I play big, lengthy. I've got every miniature for Lord of the Rings tabletop gaming, and I play lengthy campaigns of it. And for me, I like the idea that my medieval fantasy world predates the 14th century, but I wanted something that if you are playing something in your world where it's set in 16th or 17th century, then Hagglethorn Hollow is just a particularly old part of that town. Or it's just a relevant part of whatever medieval fantasy you've got. So stylization was really important to me. And first and foremost, the shape and the character of the building was what I was aiming for. And because it's not clipped together wall sections, and there's nothing wrong with that, the modularity of some of these other products out there is awesome. But for me, the visual disconnection of lots of vertical lines in your product and that kind of that repetitive texture quality of clippable wall sections takes me out of it, which is a character flaw in me, not the product, But I want, when I put my thing on the table, I want it to look like a film set, and I still want modularity. That's really important to me.
Like it's organic. It actually lived there. It's sat there for 1,200, 1,000, 100 million years or whatever. This thing has existed here and evolved over time, and this is what we're left with.
Exactly right. And what doing it that way has afforded me, which is what you don't get in other products because it needs to clip together on every different component, is that you've got these walls that are leaning out and crumbling and just stacked up, and there's no seam lines other than a couple of the carefully hidden horizontal planes where the different layers stacked together. And because, I think a lot of people like to take photos. Now everybody's camera on their phone is better than, $1,000 camera a couple of years ago, and it's so fun to, while you're playing or while it's not your turn or something, to just take a photo of your character down that city street or something. And it's important to me. And so with Hagglethorn Hollow, I just can't wait to see people's mid-game shots, because ideally everyone is going to look like, oh, what film's that from, Other than the character standing on circular bases, it's going to look like a shot out of, Willow or Fellowship of the Ring or something, which is the idea.
God, that's so awesome. We were talking about the tavern a second ago. It has 3 components, and that's 3 different floors, essentially, right? And then the 3 different internal play areas. So you're really getting a lot of functionality. We're talking about, I know you guys mentioned storage space, but if you were to get this and you have a lot of different playability out of just that one.
That's right.
Could be one building, could be 3 buildings. Yeah.
Of course, it's called the Tavern. Just that's a fun name, so it helps you when you're doing your pledge levels. We just wanted some really strong names associated to each buildings, and I mean, I often use it as a tavern in my games, and it's perfect for that. And that wasn't Mindwell sculpting it, but that could be the Guild of Thieves, or that could be the Manor House. The whole point of it is to be a standalone sculpture as well. With every sculpture I've done, it can just, where people have, talking about storage and stuff, you stick that on your shelf after a game, and it's just like buying a Sideshow collectible. You know what I mean? You can buy a sculpture of a Sideshow collectible of Chewbacca or, like Old Man Luke or whatever, and it's great. When you stick it on the shelf, it's like, I remember that scene in the film, that's my favorite or whatever, but it doesn't do much. You're not really like bopping around and playing with that because it's such a high-end collectible. And I wanted the same thing, like once you get all of your gameplay and your fun out of it, you don't want to put Hagglethorn Hollow back in a box or in the cupboard. You stick it on the shelf in your room, and you've also bought a high-end collectible. That was important to me as well, because I like displaying my miniatures, I like displaying my terrain pieces. Yeah, in the same way that you'd put Funko Pops.
That's a really good point, and pretty cool. I mean, I know I have my miniatures and stuff out on display.
Of course, you put all that work in painting them, and they make you happy. They're a beautiful thing.
Yeah, a long time ago I did that. And then we talked about a little bit about how you can turn these things from different angles, and you can give a different experience to your players. And so, if you are a game master looking to kind of step the game up, this is a good way to do it and get all that functionality. Like when it's facing one way, it looks with this silhouette facing the other, 45 degrees the next way, it's a different silhouette, and that's the same way all the way around it.
Yeah.
I'm digging it. Again, really excited.
Right.
But we're talking about.
Wait to do the set.
Yeah. Well, we're also talking about, tabletop gaming, as far as like role playing games and stuff like that. But, this fits with Sigmar and miniature wargaming as well. Like you said, it's a 28mm scale. That means figures are going to look in scale to it. They'll be able to actually fit inside or on the roof or the balconies and whatever.
Well, that's right. If you follow Tabletop Troubadour Facebook page, we have posted photos of our games we've played on it. So I've posted photos of it being used for Age of Sigmar, Monolith's Conan miniatures, which are just the best miniatures. I love that game. With Super Dungeon Explorer, I've played with it. I used my Mice and Mystics miniatures for a game of Frostgrave. Obviously Zombicide Black Plague, as you can see in our Kickstarter video, Cormany and Not very kindly loved the product and said, sure, use the miniatures. And I had them all painted up as medieval villages, of course. So they, out of my miniature collections, they were the best ones to fit inside Hagglethorn Hollow for the relevance of that video. But scale-wise, also Lord of the Rings, we've got some Lord of the Rings games in it, and that's on purpose because again, like it's made by a gamer for gamers. I'm really happy that it's doing well and is going to find has found its audience. But I made it for me. I had a lot of games I needed it to work for, and I made it for me first and foremost to suit every game. And you'll see in the stretch goals that I'm coming up with on a daily basis, they're just getting unlocked like nobody's business. They're perfect. They are purposefully designed to work for amazing little objective markers and magical occurrence sort of things for Age of Sigmar. I've just got really big into the Malign Sorcery pack, and with the magical properties that can get attributed to terrain features that benefit your strategic playability in a game like that. Now, I don't know, we're already at like 15 statues that we've unlocked that are all these kind of like old school magic relic sort of gargoyle and totem things. The thatched pledge and then the full pledge come with these totems that are holding out a little bowl in the same way that you'd put an offering in them,
Wow.
That could be an apple for a good season or blood for a good battle or whatever. But, and when you get your model, of course, you can paint, get that great blood paint from the Citadel range and put some goo in there, and suddenly, these stretch goals that you're getting just for pledging, you can customize to work with your army of Khorne, or glue a bit of moss on it, and you're now working with the Sylvaneth army.
Sylvaneth is my army, and I actually pledged in at the Wizarding district. And so when I started to see the stretch goals kind of go that tree spirit fairy route, again, I'm just really excited.
Well, I'm a big Sylvaneth player as well, so
such a beautiful army.
I know.
Oh man, so I just wanted to point that out also, that you can get this stuff painted as part of your pledge or unpainted.
Yeah. We originally, we went down the unpainted route, and then very quickly we realized, no, there's a lot of people going to want painted. And so as we started to kind of work out the production logistics, we found that we were able to, well, Johnny basically, he was able to do a paint scheme that was very economic, yet you look at it and with the very kind of careful choice of palette and wash, you actually get a very rich and a very kind of immersive paint scheme that feels very natural to the world. And again, it kind of gives it that unique look, yet it doesn't have a super harsh kind of allegiance to one form or another. It's very open. It's a delicate balance, and I was very, very happy of how it came out. And yeah, we also managed to get it down to a very reasonable price, which, I mean, for us, we just wanted to get this product out there to as many people as we can to share the world. So we did what we could to make sure those prices were affordable. But also we are just as excited, probably even more, to see how people paint their own, or customize their own. Like I said, with Johnny, who loves the kit bash, you won't find a model that just comes out of the box at his house and stays as it is.
I'm not a converter. I'm a kit basher. I actually started a group on Facebook called the Kit Bash Crew just for that. People that don't, they just bring kits together to form something unique and post pictures. It's awesome.
Oh, I'll have to post some of my kit bashes that I've done.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
But yeah, so as like saying, like it's incredibly important for me, almost first and foremost in a lot of ways, that my work looks like an illustration. Like because as an artist, and the color palette really references that. The buildings have a really sculptural feel because I'm a sculptor. I've been a sculptor in the film industry for 15 years, and but I also my first job was in miniatures. I spent 2 years on a small team of people, building the 65.
Is that a pun?
Oh yeah, working building all of the miniatures that were seen for Skull Island and King Kong. So I love nature and rock and jungles and all that kind of stuff. And so when approaching Hagglethorn Hollow's color palette, I'm a huge fan of Arthur Rackham and Brian Froud and that old mythological vibe of artistry and stuff. So there's a real sepia color palette to Hagglethorn Hollow, and that's inspired by a lot of my favorite medieval fantasy things like Labyrinth, obviously, but King's Landing and Game of Thrones, and the box art for Hero Quest, which is the greatest painting of all time, and then also things like just how what I get in my head when I read Robert E. Howard's Conan novels, and then how a lot of that was tackled by Frank Frazetta. It's all like kind of this tan, earthy masonry. But, I can't wait to see people play around with a more obvious approach to a color palette, which would be, the dark kind of grey stone masonry sort of stuff, and maybe that kind of World of Warcraft blue slate roof instead of the dark red earth-baked clay tiles I've got going on in Hagglethorn Hollow. I mean, given a chance, I might start. But that's a whole different town. If you've got a couple sets, you've got completely two different towns. You can take. It could be Bree or it could be Minas Tirith. That's what.
But people getting the painted stuff, they're going to be able to, when they receive it, they'll be able to take it out of the box and put it on the table.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it almost looks just as good unpainted in some ways. You take it out of if you've got an unpainted pledge, you take that out of the box and play with it as well. My friends mock me because it's like Johnny has a very strict, we're not playing it unless it's painted rule. When we have a board game, like I'll get a new board game and the gaming group's excited to play it. It's like, well, you're going to be waiting a couple of weeks. Because I've got to paint those minis first,
We waited months to play Blood Rage.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that. That's fine.
Everyone's talking about it and it's all Blood Rage. I'm like, yeah, Johnny hasn't painted them, so we're not allowed to play it yet.
Yeah. So. He's part of the hobby.
Well, the reason I mention it, I mean, people can, of course, get the unpainted pledge, and it's a little bit less. But some of these things you see, you're like, I'm not going to do it because I'll never get it on the table. This is not the case. This will come as it's pictured here, and you'll be able to then the very next moment put it into your games and start rolling dice.
Yeah.
Figuring it out painted, obviously that was more work and more investment for us, but it was directed by the community, like we knew that was a huge thing for them. And the most backed tiers are the painted ones. So I think we chose wisely there that our efforts to get it to that level have paid off. And also, when you see it on the videos, the Kickstarter video we've done, the Adam Savage video, that's the prototype we put together because it was I could have I'm really good at Photoshop in the sense that I've been paid for 10.
It could be whatever color you wanted.
Yeah, well, I could have just photoshopped over the plasticine sculptures and it would have looked exactly like you've got it on the campaign, and it would have just been here's how it's going to look, but that's not good enough for me. So it was a considerable investment for Ike and I to mold my sculptures and cast them out several times, and I spent months, at my own cost painting these and then building these tables, because it was really important to me to show you what you're really going to get. Not suggest it in some cleverly done photo bashed pictures, but we want, as you've seen, we've been able to do videos of us playing with it. I've been able to have games with it. So the stretch goals and the way we've set up the tiers have been influenced by the fact that it is a physical product in front of us. When we're setting up these tiers, we had them in front of us and we're shuffling things around, going, what should be this? Actually, you know what? This will be better. People are going to want this. It's like that game we had where we used that really worked well with that. Well, you can't do the tier without including that. And then, so now that I'm designing stretch goals, I'm able to design stretch goals through illustration, knowing how I'm going to be able to sculpt them and how they're going to match the physical sculptures that I've got in front of me. So that considerable investment I put into molding these and casting these, which is not cheap, and they are big bloody buildings, that has just paid off in spades for how the campaign has formed around it and how the community's formed around it. It also just means that, because this is series 1, we've got a big plan for this system, and it's just going to get better and better because I'm learning as I go, as well. I mean, Hagglethorn Hollow is built on 15 years of sculpting and more years gaming. So it's a lot of experience put together into a product that I wanted personally, and which is why it works and why I think it's found its audience. But now that I've done it, I've got even better and more relevant and more modular and more interesting ideas that I can't wait to deliver this Kickstarter and just really sink my teeth into stage 2.
Man, I'm a believer, and you've actually opened up during the course of this campaign for people to be able to purchase some of the roof sections separately, so even more affordably being able to switch up the design of their setting for their games or whatever.
The community asked for it. We read all the comments and the FAQs, and the community asked for it, and it was up the next day, and that's been happening on a daily basis thanks to Ike.
I've started videotaping games, putting them out on YouTube and stuff. And one of the biggest hurdle, if you're trying to do 2 games at once, is switching out the table.
Yeah,
it'd be so cool if you could just switch out the rooftops and otherwise leave the stuff the same.
Well, that's the thing. The thatch and the tile are so completely different, and they really look like you've got 2 completely different cities just from switching out the roofs, which takes all of about 2.5 seconds. And so you could be Stormcasts fighting orcs in one city, and that game wraps up great, and then suddenly you're like Khorne barbarians fighting Ironclad Arsenal or something, and the game setup took 1 minute.
Yeah, we have had a few people who have not realized straight away how the roofs interchange, and it's been it's been very amusing to when I read their messages and comments, and then they suddenly realize, because
you can hear it happening for them.
You can, but you realize what they're used to is not having quite that simplistic modularity. And so and most people are aware of it, but the couple people who I've seen kind of go through that, it's so fun to see. And also, again, they're not really expecting it. They're kind of thinking, well, everyone, you must have a completely separate base and dungeon, but the fact that we've found this way to balance the two, I think it's one of the things that's been received so well by the community. Just like you're saying, you can change your cityscape up literally within seconds and suddenly have a whole new feeling and vibe to your tabletop. It's been fantastic to see the community kind of embrace that.
That has led to Hagglethorn Hollow's biggest flaw, though, is that I found there's too much modularity sometimes. Like when I'm setting up a city, we say it's place and play, and it does take a second to slap up a working city on your table. But it's like Lego, you know, you buy the box, but you build other stuff. It's like I have so much fun setting it up in different ways that you can spend a lot of time coming up with your perfect city in like a Minecraft kind of way. But that's another thing with it. Like we've got people that are buying this for their kids to just play in and tell stories in. We've got, you know, my boss Richard Taylor has bought a full pledge because he's going to he's landscaping a bit in his garden, so Hagglethorn Hollow will sit outside as a miniature village for his model train. Awesome. You know, so and you know, my wife uses a tavern for her earrings and necklaces, you know, on our mantelpiece because it's great. I mean, it's primarily for gamers, but it's, you know, it's for anyone. And
you bring up a good point. I mean, you mentioned it before, but if you were to have this sitting in your house or whatever, and company comes over who's never rolled a die in their life, they're going to be able to appreciate it, see it if you see it sitting there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, looking over this. Yeah, I mean, I look at a lot of products for gaming. I'm a huge gamer, collector, whatever. There's no getting around that. But I look at this and I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if? And then I look a little bit longer and I see it. Like, this is one of the most complete things I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice to hear. That's always important to me. Ike, the businessman, it's like, well, let's just stick to three buildings, which is the smart way to do it, you know? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll finish those 3 buildings. So, but then I could have this. It's like, well, 3 buildings is in a city. If you have 4, there's more. And then, well, the dungeons, it's like, let's make a whole city here. And because I just get carried away. And then obviously there had to be a cutoff point at some point. But then the whole point of this was feeling like, even though, you know, it's our first project, we didn't want to go in. Well, I personally didn't want to go in and saying, this world's going to be really big. Believe me, here's the first taste of it. I just want to say, here's the world. You can get as much or as little as you want, because I couldn't stop myself, you know, like it was so fun to make, and it was so exciting to set myself the challenges and then kind of achieve them and then get this onto the table. I guess a lot of that's driven by what I was saying before, is like, I can't play a game until everything's painted and finished, you know? And I needed to play in the city, but I'm calling it a city, so I needed it to be a city, you know? It wasn't a little farmstead.
You've got to have a post office, you've got to have a tavern, you've got to...
That's right. And I've said this in a few interviews, but like a huge inspiration for me was... It's never, not the way I've seen it, it's never been realized in film. I've always had this really clear idea of kind of like how Anka Morpork in the Discworld novels feels. And it's almost like walking around a city as big as New York with the buildings as tall as New York, but in a medieval fantasy way. I really wanted this tight, claustrophobic, towering city where, because the footprint of the city is so big now, it can't build out anymore, so it has to build up. And that was what I wanted to achieve with Hagglethorn Hollow, like this epic, sprawling city that is just ready to go, and any adventure can be happening in any one of those rooms.
Yeah, and you've got several different styles here of like building groups that, again, you can kind of mix and match and see that growth if you wanted to in whatever you're going for in your city or campaign or tablescape. But there's like the cobblestoney type stuff, and then there's more of like, we saw the tavern, but it's more like it could be several different things. Then you've got what has the kind of the pointy tops with the towers and guild halls and wizard stuff, you know, that's essentially. Right. Then we've got something that's like a thatched roof, and I think that's kind of the Conan things.
You don't have, they're not mutually exclusive. You don't, okay, we can play with Tile Town, and next mission we'll go to Thatch. You mix those together and they work perfectly, because the idea is you've created a town, that there's new parts of town, there's old parts of town, or there's different cultures in town, you know, like we played that out on the campaign with the kind of the old town and the Wizarding Guild. Like the Wizarding Guild have come into town and changed things up, and not everyone's happy about it. But you know, because you go to any town, any city in the world, and you've got old buildings and new buildings, and that's no different in a medieval fantasy world. Well, not to me. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to be able to not only create a very simply achievable class system, but I wanted it to look, you know, like that town has existed for so long, but is also currently evolving. you know, like the thatched roof Globe Theatre next to some tile roofs in London when Shakespeare's knocking about, you know. I wanted that kind of vibe. So I've played some games where all the buildings are mixed into the table together, and it's great. I'm
already envisioning now like a little small town with on the hill, there's the ancient ruins that are the remnants of some castle that was there defeated 1,000 years ago or something. I mean, it's you can't help but start coming up with stories as you look at these things.
Well, that's right. Well, I'm not much of a computer gamer, but sometimes just because I'm too tactile, but sometimes there's a game you just have to play. For me, like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Skyrim was one, and basically just because it's D&D really. But you go and get your quest, and like in Skyrim, you might go see a Thrain in some thatched building, and it's like there's a ghost in the ruins outside of town we need sorting out. And that, you know, so be able to have ruins for me, it was great because you now get a quest, you know, sort out the ghost in the ruins, and you can go do that, set that up in a couple of minutes.
So the Kickstarter, by the time this goes up, will have about 5 days left. Mm-hmm. And so I think even over the course of us talking, there have been a few more backers. It's obviously successful, and I'm real happy to have you guys on. Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up right now?
I think, one of the coolest things that's happened actually in this Kickstarter. Well, I'll let Johnny tell the story.
Oh, yeah. So early in the first couple of days of the Kickstarter going live, I get a message from Stefan Pokorny, the Dwarvenaut from Dwarven Forge, and I admire his product hugely, but I admire him as a creative and just a force of role-playing nature, you know, as the dungeon master that he's world famous for, and also like, I mean, Stefan puts it best. You know, there's been a couple of, you know, well-meaning, fun comments online with Hagglethorn Hollow, you know, like look out Dwarven Forge, or have you seen this, or whatever. And that's just not what we're about, because they're such different products. And Stefan contacted me and with the same thing. It's just like, wow, it's so cool to see another product on the market. I love what you guys are doing. And that was heartwarming for me, because the gaming community is so much nicer than any community. It's nicer than the computer gaming community. It's nicer than the film community. And they're great communities too, but there's something about the craft and the socializing aspect of gaming, you know, tabletop gaming in particular, I respond to really well and has drawn me in. And so when Stefan Pokorny himself is saying, hey, buddy, just wanted to say I love what you're doing, I was like, hey, if you ever want to come to New Zealand, I'd love to hang out and show you Tabletop Troubadour game studios and stuff. And I think he was here about 3 days later. You know?
That is awesome.
And fortunately for us, you know, it's happened mid-campaign. I'm working every day on this, and so is Ike, but we've found some time to squeeze in showing him a bit of New Zealand. And obviously he's here with his lovely partner, Anna, and she's organised a real great trip for him. They've had a personal tour of the Shire, and, you know, we've taken him to where they shot some Lord of the Rings stuff as well when we've had a chance between working on the campaign. And the best bit was we had an evening. He wanted 8 gamers, so I got my top, including myself, my top 7 inner circle gaming buddies, and we put a bit of Hagglethorn Hollow with some Valorian Dwarven Forge, you know, so and we had this epic campaign, just one-off campaign where we all made our characters, and Stefan took us on this quest through Hagglethorn Hollow, then down into the dungeons below that he had bought with him. He's, you know, traveling with 1 suitcase of clothes and 1 suitcase of dungeon, and
that's probably not his first time doing that.
And it was just a real celebration of craft and imagination, and it's been a real treat hosting him while he's been here, and we're gonna be sad to see him go later on today.
Yeah, and another thing we set up. I mean, once he said, "Hey, look, I'm free now," he was actually on a break from work, and so it just timed out. And when he was keen to come here, we're like, "Oh, okay, he's coming." So we decided, look, why don't we grab a few people and have a bit of a artist roundtable, and we'll film it and we'll put something together. We'll put it online later. And it just so happens that he was very keen on it. And the 4 people, which we can actually announce now, I mean, it is Stefan and Johnny, but it's also Richard Taylor, the head of Weta, and Jed Brophy, who, Jed, you probably know him as
Snaga and Shaku, like the main orcs on Lord of the Rings.
Holy smokes.
He's in every Peter Jackson movie. He's Nori the dwarf in The Hobbit, so he's part of Thorin's fellowship in The Hobbit.
Yeah. So when this releases, we might have put something on Facebook by then, so we're going to time it out. But who knows? You might get the exclusive with this podcast to know it's been released.
The idea of the round table being 4 very different types of creatives and what they bring to the world of fantasy and why they bring it. Why is it necessary? You know, Richard as the arbiter of all things, as the props master and world builder that he is for Narnia and Middle Earth, and then because role-playing is so character-based, you've got Jed Brophy, who has inhabited orcs and dwarfs and brought them to life for everyone, and then myself as a conceptual designer and sculptor, and then, of course, Stefan as a dungeon master, and how all of those roles are so different, but they're all about the importance of the wondrous escapism of gaming and inventing and creating.
That is fabulous to hear. I cannot wait to see that video.
It was
a couple of days, I think.
Yeah. And I tell you what, even just being a fly on the wall, just being on the sidelines, watching them film it was a fascinating conversation. It was surreal to see these four people come together and just have a conversation about the things that they love. Yeah, we can't wait to share it. It's one of the kind of the real kind of special moments in this whole campaign. Yeah, Stefan, just his generous, just his spirit and his passion for gaming. I mean, he's been doing this, I think, for, you said, like 22 years. It just all comes through. He's one of the most kind of genuine people, and just
an amazing artist as well.
Yeah, an amazing artist, and just an infectious kind of personality to him. And we honestly can't thank him enough for his support for what we're doing. And
I wish he lived here so I could game with him.
Yeah. Watching him as a dungeon master was incredible. He was fantastic. He had that whole table. I think there was 9 players at the end.
9 players, and my friends just had the best time.
Yeah, 9 people, and not one of them felt left out. Everyone was in there, and that, I think, is a delicate balance to keep.
A lot of them were new to role playing. They're all my gaming buddies. Some of them I role play with. Some of them anything from Space Hulk to Star Wars Imperial Assault. But so not all of them had created a character and role played with me. Certainly not with Stefan. And it was such an organic. Nobody was out of their depth.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank y'all very much for coming on and spending the time with me. I know you obviously have a lot going on with this campaign and what you were just talking about, entertaining international guests. I mean, that's absolutely awesome. Can I have you go on again later, maybe after the campaign is over, to talk about how things are going and what's next?
Great idea.
Of course. Yeah. We think that, I mean, we're not going to be quiet between here and delivery. There's quite a few things that will happen during delivery, announcements and products that will hopefully be either developing or maybe even be able to bring to market.
We've been working on products for 2 years now.
Yeah. And now with, like we're saying at the start, the community that has grown from this as one of our backers, I think it was JK, kind of coined it, the Hagglethornians have come out of this. It has given us they're helping us kind of pave this way to kind of create this world that people can bring into their homes and hopefully invest in to keep kind of building over the years. And it's we can't wait to help people kind of expand this and just to bring more and more of this world to people and just see where it goes. It's very, very exciting. We can't wait.
Yeah.
I will put your web pages and Kickstarter page and Facebook page and everything in the show notes so people can find you, check out some of the stuff if they haven't already.
Thank you.
Again, had a great time talking with you all. I'll be back in touch real soon.
Great. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for the podcast. It's great.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Everybody. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening.